Well, here we are, my friends, heading into another weekend, and as always, we like to give you a little bit of food for thought, something to think about, something to ponder. And I think our first guest today will deliver those goods in spades, something to definitely think about. You know, we've talked about it before, the consolidation of countries, the forming of different unions, much like the European Union. How much longer until there's a North American Union or an American Union in general? Well, my guest today has a website that addresses some of those issues, at least in particular in regards to Canada and the United States. The website, www.UnitedNorthAmerica.org. Please welcome to the program our guest today, Jonathan Wheelwright. Jonathan, welcome, and thank you for your time, sir.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Anytime. I think it's pretty amazing that people are talking about this like real people, because you know the whole concept behind this consolidation seems to stem from the politicians, and whenever a politician says something is a good idea, most people tend to think, well, then surely it's bad. And I'm curious, what led you into this concept? What sort of research have you come across, and how has the response been?
Well, the basic aim of the site is that we're stronger, united, rather than divided.
Sure.
Canada and the United States share common ideals of freedom and democracy. We share the same geography, history, and culture. And the borders were originally crafted by the British, dividing a common people. And today there's no good reason for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I mean, except for the whole thing of nationalism. I think that now you're in Canada. I presume probably lived in Canada your whole life, a Canadian citizen?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, see, from what I've heard, and I've lived all over the United States, and I've played hockey, so I've had a lot of close Canadian friends, teammates, and things like that. And for the most part, the Canadians that I've known have always taken a sort of pleasure in not being American.
Yeah, well, there's definitely something to that. It's a difficult concept to get Canadians to support too, because there's from an early age, Canadians are taught that they're not Americans, to define themselves as being not Americans. And there's a lot of jealousy towards the United States. It's envied for its power and its military might. But I think on a Canadian perspective, what they need to understand is that by sitting here in a different country and different political entity, mm-hmm. we're throwing away our voice. Mm-hmm. And in essence, we're really dominated without representation, from our perspective anyways. That's
Wow.
the way I see it.
Now, I think we're all relatively familiar with the meeting between Harper Bush and Vicente Fox down there in Cancun. Just happened recently. Mm-hmm. And of course, there were meetings before that as well, before Harper got in office. And the idea, from what we hear in the mainstream media, consists of this concept of strengthening the borders with our neighbors. Now, United North America doesn't seem to include Mexico either. Is there a reason for that?
Well, Mexico is nowhere in the same class as Canada and the United States. Mm-hmm. It's almost to the level of a third world nation by our standards. I certainly think that we should help foster democracy within Mexico and help them reach our level of social class. And from our perspective, it just makes more sense for us to be working with them than, say, China. But I don't think that they would be ready to have an open border with Canada and the United States. If you did that, you'd have millions of Mexicans fleeing the border the
mm-hmm.
very next day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I wonder, I know you guys have been doing interviews on this subject and whatnot. Have you interacted with an American audience before, and how has that response been?
Yeah, just recently I was actually on Maxim Radio, which is on the Sirius satellite, and that wasn't as great of a reaction on that end, because they were mostly just into basically just making jokes and that sort of thing.
Sure.
But, I've been on different radio stations, both in Canada and the United States, and the reaction is usually mixed on the radio, because people are just being introduced to the idea when I come on the radio. Mm-hmm. And, I think if you go to the website, you'll have a greater idea in depth of what the plan is, what the general concept is, because there is no real plan in terms of specifics. And it's pretty hard to really have a lot of venom against an idea that's promoting democracy and unity.
Mm-hmm. Well, what about when that door is opened? Because I think that for me, I'm always, like I said, off the bat, suspicious of politicians and anything that they endorse, anything they suggest as a good idea, automatically I'm suspicious of that. But in terms of something like this, even when the people themselves start down a path, I wonder at what point then do you stop? It's a process of gradualism. If we were to do that, let's say Canada and the U.S. were integrated into one country, there's going to be a lot of issues here, because already after the 2004 presidential election here in the United States, a lot of people wanted to get the hell out of America. They said, look, this country's done for. 4 more years of Bush, no way, I'm out. And they couldn't get into Canada. A lot of the U.S. troops have wanted to go into Canada, and some have been successful, some have not been successful. There are trade disputes between the U.S. and Canada that even if we were to integrate into one country, you would still have to resolve the issue. I doubt that debt would simply be forgiven. Other issues would, of course, be different governmental policies. Environmental standards are higher in Canada than they are in the United States, from what I understand. The system of government is structured differently. There's a lot of issues here. And all those would have to be reconciled. So even if it were to happen, it would take some doing, because presumably, as you say, in this democratic mindset, it would have to be a little bit of give and take. We would have to take something from Canada, something from the United States, and combine it into some amalgam that people would, for the most part, be able to agree with. And I think there'd be a lot of differences, which means it would take some time. But I think that even best case scenario, that were to happen, I think Mexico would say, you guys are racist for not inviting us into this.
Well, I don't know what Mexico's reaction would be, but I don't think that Mexico is ready to have an open border with the United States.
Oh, I agree.
And